The Mandalorian Chapter 11 has dropped, and I've got to say, as a Star Wars fan, as a Clone Wars fan, this episode had me on the verge of tears. Seeing Bo-Katan in live action was just, it was so cool to see. But before I get into that and the episode proper, there's a couple housekeeping items I want to take care of. First, number one, I'm not going to waste any more time putting clips from the show in the videos. I might still do some screenshots, but I just had too many issues with getting flagged by Disney's copyright bot. I had to upload the last video 3 times, and it just was not worth it. Number two, I've resisted doing this because I hate it, but I guess you have to do it because it works. So if you like the video, please like and subscribe, do all that stuff. And you know that you got to point at the box, wherever the box is, do that. Yeah, whatever. And number 3, I am trying to find a narrower focus for these videos. I do want this to be a writing channel first and foremost. And with that said, let's dive in. The Mandalorian Chapter 11. Chapter 11 really felt like the end of Act 1 to me if you take the entire season as a whole. We all know like the little plot graph that they show us in school, and we're definitely on that rising action trajectory now where with Din meeting Bo-Katan being that inciting incident that's going to shoot us off into the real meat of the next few episodes. And I don't want to make any more predictions because I made a few in my first video that didn't really turn out completely correct, but after this episode some of them do seem like they are correct. Like I was totally right about Bo-Katan leading Din to Ahsoka. Side note, I'm going to try and refer to the Mandalorian by his actual name more because it's just weird calling him the Mandalorian all the time when we know his name. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to make predictions, but I do see the story going in a certain direction based on the first season and what we've seen so far this season, and that has to do with identity. Identity has been a huge theme so far in all the episodes, season 1, and now we're seeing it again in season 2. We're specifically seeing that theme of identity around Din, the Mandalorian, especially. We see that he has this inner conflict about does he want to be a Mandalorian. He was never really born a true Mandalorian, but as season 1 progressed, he kind of finds himself being more comfortable in his own skin, in his own identity. He gets his sigil, and that kind of cements who he is as a Mandalorian, as a person. But we also kind of see him soften in some aspects, and that is mostly demonstrated through his character arc around IG-11 and coming to accept droids and seeing them not as the threat he did as a child based on his childhood experiences. And I do think that Baby Yoda has had a lot of influence on that, on his softening as a character. And continuing that thread, I fully expect to see Din soften his views on what it means to be a Mandalorian. And this first meeting with Bo-Katan's already kind of setting that stage. We see how he's willing to work with her, even though she's not a true Mandalorian, or at least she's not a true Mandalorian based on what he was taught as a child. And again, that's even already in stark contrast to how we treated Cobb Vanth, another person who he viewed as not being a true Mandalorian. So we're already seeing some progress in that regard, but I do feel like as the season goes on, we're going to see more of that. And it does seem like you do want to get Pedro Pascal's face on camera more often. So from an outside looking in perspective, it also makes more sense to have the Mandalorian taking off his helmet more often. Oh yeah, and as an aside, I just had to laugh at Din telling Bo-Katan that she wasn't a real Mandalorian. Like, for the viewer, we know why that's hilarious. We've seen the Clone Wars. We know who she is. But also just like in world, can you imagine? She's like, who is this guy? Like, I'm literally like the most Mandalorian to ever Mandalore, and this guy's telling me I'm not a real Mandalorian. And it also kind of hit me on another level where within the fandom, I'm sure we've all experienced people telling us we're not a true fan, and it's probably even more true of women in the fandom who always have to deal with certain men quizzing them and accusing them of not being, quote unquote, true fans, whatever that means. So I was getting a lot of that energy from that scene, which I thought was funny. But getting back to the main point, right? I'm trying to stay focused and on point. I'm sure Ahsoka is also gonna nudge him along on this journey of kind of, not being so rigid and so dogmatic, because, as we know, Ahsoka's kind of already been on that journey herself in her experiences in the Clone Wars with the Jedi Order, and I feel like they're gonna have a bit of a kindred spirit thing going on. They have a lot in common. Like, first and foremost, obviously their lives are kind of both greatly impacted by the events of the Clone Wars, but also they were both children that were taken in by these like orders, these warrior orders, and trained in a certain lifestyle. And they've both kind of had a reality check in, like, with what does it actually mean to be a part of that order. Maybe everything they're saying and doing isn't really how it has to be. Maybe this is not the way. So I feel like that's going to be something that Jon Favreau and the other directors are really going to want to explore moving forward. All in all, like I said before, this episode really feels like the end of Act 1, and it's a kickoff into what's going to come next. I'm not going to try and predict what's going to come next, but I do feel like keeping within this theme of identity and Baby Yoda's influence on Din's arc in that sense, I do feel like there's going to be a conflict is coming where he's going to have to make a decision, and is he going to give up Baby Yoda to the Jedi at the end of this season? I really don't think so. I don't know, like, from a paratextual, I don't know if that's the right word, but like from looking at it from outside the text, they're not gonna end this after 2 seasons. I don't know how long they're planning on doing it. So I do feel like the more realistic trajectory for the Mandalorian and for Baby Yoda is for him to kind of continue on this path of growth, maybe rejecting some of the more dogmatic views he was indoctrinated with as a child, and continuing to become more open, and maybe allowing himself to have more feelings and more connection to the world. What does that remind you of? What other order of warriors with ancient practices does that sound like? Lots of rhyming, lots of parallels here, to use the Star Wars parlance. So yeah, like I said before, this definitely seems like it's following an arc, and season 1 followed a very similar arc where you have episodes 1 to 3 were kind of like the first act, and then you had like a bit more like of a meteor episodes 4, 5, and 6. And while they were episodic, there was like a thread running through them that all tied together in the end with like episodes 7 and 8, which would be the Act 3, if looking at it as a whole, where we got the climax and the resolution. So I expect to see something like that again. And obviously we're heading towards something big with Din, Bo-Katan, Moff Gideon, Ahsoka Tano, and the Darksaber. And I really can't wait to see what that's going to be. Like I said at the start, seeing all this in live action has just been such a treat, and I can't wait to see what they do next. And they also continue to deliver in like every other aspect beyond the writing and the story. Like the visuals are just mind blowing. Like all those action sequences with the Mandalorians. Oh, just I can't say enough good things about it. The score's on point. I have that main Mandalorian theme stuck in my head constantly. And the world building, just every episode, it feels like this Star Wars universe, the galaxy is getting bigger. Something's being added to it. In this season, so again, we're seeing now on Trask, we see the Quarren, we see the Mon Calamari, and I laughed when I saw the inside of the Razor Crest at the end of the episode, because that's something that's mentioned in the Lost Stars books, is that the Mon Calamari like to keep their ships humid, and because it reminds them of their home world. So I just laughed that the Mon Calamari were trying to make the ship more comfortable for Din, like they usually do for themselves, which I thought was just a nice nod to the expanded universe, which is something that this show has been doing in spades and just doing it so well. And they're just growing the whole universe that the show takes place in, and doing it in like a really natural, organic way that doesn't detract from the story, but like building on it or exploring it and bringing something new to the table, which I don't want to be critical. When I set out, I didn't want to be critical about anything, but I will say that is a feeling that was missing from the sequel trilogy. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this video. Like I said at the start, please like and subscribe. I know I don't want I feel dirty just saying it. Wherever the box would be down there. I don't know. I just, I want to see people. I want people to see these. I don't want to feel like I'm shouting into the void all the time. So please like, subscribe, comment. That's one thing actually I would love for people to do. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think of the episodes so far. Tell me where you think this is all going. What you think they're getting right. I'm not so much interested in what you think people are getting wrong, because there's enough negativity out there. We could celebrate the things we love for once, and stop focusing so much on what we don't. So that's all for this week. I'll see you next week for Chapter 12. I can't wait, and I'm sure neither can you guys. I'll see you then.